This is the scariest farm I have ever seen. There were women in captivity in what was obviously a cow farm. The women had 2 plastic tubes stuck into their bodies. A steady stream of breast milk was being sucked out, and the conditions around them were horrible. It was filthy and damp. In such conditions, you were given a cup of breast milk to drink. Would you want to? The woman in front of me is called Jessie. She is hot on a cold iron plate. Her eyes are empty. She saw the doctor beside her take out the lubricant, put it on a syringe and walk towards her. This is what they call artificial insemination on the ranch. The doctor injects a huge syringe full of milky fluid into the woman to help them get pregnant quickly. When Jessie has finished the injection, an old man with an iron bar in his hand walks in. He hooks the tip of the iron bar around the collar. Jessie was taken to a room like a cattle escort. The room was as damp and dark as ever. The walls were lined with huge metal cages, and in these cages were imprisoned several women, already pregnant. They were as numb as Jessie's eyes. At the old man's behest, Jessie was pushed into one of the cages, waiting for the birth to take place. After Jessie is settled in, another male worker in uniform enters the room. The woman he was holding was no longer able to produce milk, and on the farm, a woman who can't produce milk is of no value. So the 2 men took care of it right away, as a deterrent to the other women in the cages. Later that evening, Jessie, who had fallen asleep, was awakened by shouts from the cage next door. She got up to check on the woman and found that she was in labor. Jessie didn't know what to do. All she could do was keep calming the woman. A few moments later, the doctor and the old man arrived at the sound of the cage. Together they lifted the woman in labor, ready to deliver the baby on the spot. As the woman gasped for breath, he is born. But before he could enjoy his mother's embrace, before he can see the world, the doctor throws him mercilessly into a metal bucket at hand. The reason is simple. He is a male. He would not be able to produce milk for the farm. After receiving the doctor's hint, the old man picks up a knife with a cold glow and slowly walks towards the barrel. Pregnant woman screams from the dirty room. She was lying on the floor, trying desperately to give birth to the child in her womb, but the baby was born. The doctor's face suddenly sinks. She ordered the man beside her, "Throw him in the trash. There is no use for men here." Even if they come out, they would have been thrown in the trash without hesitation by the doctor. The woman who didn't get to keep her baby was distraught. Jessie had to keep reassuring her through the cage. After a long while, the woman calmed down. She gets up, takes Jessie's hand and tells Jessie to get out of here as soon as she can. Otherwise she would end up like her as a milk producer. Just then, the bearded man with the electric wand enters. He whistles and shocks the cage. Listening to the harmful sound of electricity and metal clashing, he sees that the women in the cage are unresponsive. He simply hit them straight on the body with the electric wand. He forces them to scream in agony. Jessie watched. She was determined to escape from the ranch. It was midnight. Jessie deliberately shouts frantically and tricks the old man into opening the gantry for her. Then she took the opportunity to kick the old man. She knocked him unconscious and then grabbed a stick. The women in the cage, when they saw this scene, they all cheered with joy. Their determination to fight back was instantly renewed. But just as Jessie was untying them, the bearded man who sensed something was wrong came in. Jessie had no advantage in a head-to-head fight, so she stepped into the shadows first. She strangled him from behind, and then Jessie threw the key to the cage to the women. She quickly left the area. Down the pasture path, Jessie slowly felt her way forward. As she passed one of the rooms, she saw the woman who were unable to produce milk, only to see the ranch hands were do something to her. The sight terrified Jessie, but she didn't dare make a sound. She had to cover her mouth tightly to get out of here as quickly as possible. Jessie forced herself to stay calm. She continued to walk forward. A deep corridor came into view. There were several rooms on either side. Jessie looked in again. She found dozens of women standing in the rooms. They were immobilized by the machines and had become real milk producers. She was terrified. Jessie heard footsteps from behind her. She immediately opened a room and ducked inside. There was a little girl sitting in this room. Jessie instinctively went up to the girl and touched her face. She reassured her not to be afraid, but the next moment, Jessie herself was in danger. She is captured by the arriving staff, and then the scene shifts. A fair-skinned woman appears. The new product she is holding. It is made from a woman's breast milk. It is called the milk of life. This woman has just woken up to find that the man beside her had already lost his breath. She looks around in fear. She finds a curly-haired woman crouching in the corner with a dagger in her hand. She had obviously killed the man. The curly-haired woman then lunges at Jessie. She smiled with a struggling smile. The long torture had made her lose her mind. Jessie tried to take the curly-haired woman with her to escape, but just as the two were about to leave, the doctor came in with a kit to clear the way. The two men pinned the doctor down left and right. They opened her mouth. They continued to move. The doctor, unable to speak, is put into a prison uniform by Jessie. She was put in a cage. Shortly afterwards, the owner of the ranch pays a surprise visit. Jessie and the curly-haired girl rush to hide on either side of the door, barely escaping with their lives. Seeing the owner head inside the ranch, only then do they finally escape and get their lives back. This is actually a short film about animal care, a woman in captivity on a ranch, a metaphor for real cows. Human beings want to be beautiful and young, without regard for other creatures. A total lack of respect for life. Those cows are living in the worst conditions. If they are unable to produce milk, they are beaten and even slaughtered. They are paying for the desires of mankind, and yet they are not given the most basic respect.